Dear friends, it's a great pleasure to be here all together, and I would like to start by thanking Hans Fiedem and Johan Luimers, the two directors of this beautiful place in Amsterdam, Orgelpark, a unique place in Europe and maybe in the world today, for hosting this European symposium. Hans just said that we are coming from ECHO. What is ECHO? It's a network based so far in 10 cities in Europe: Alkmaar, Brussels, Freiburg, Fribourg, Innsbruck, Mafra, Leuven, Toulouse, Treviso, Trondheim. And I think 9 of these 10 cities are represented today. We're very happy and very excited about the exchange that will take place in a few minutes. Which audiences for the organ during the 21st century in our time? It's a question that many of us in the world of organ have been questioning in the last years, or even sometimes more, seeing that it's not that obvious for an organ festival to reach the kind of musical audience as an opera house or as an orchestra or as a concert hall, you know. Sometimes it's a success, sometimes it's less, and okay, there have been questions, there have been beautiful experiences here and there, but frankly speaking, we are not different than the other musical organizers in the field of classical and contemporary music, because everybody today who has a responsibility in such an institution is facing that question. For which audience are we working? How are we working with them? Who is not part of the audience? Who is representing the diversity of our cities in our audience? And who is not represented in the diversity, from the diversity in our audiences? So we share that question, that fundamental question, with a lot of colleagues who seem maybe to be more successful or who easily fill their holes, but we are concerned with the same thing. What will be the audience for classical and contemporary music during the next year, the next decade? Of course, there are a few specificities in the world of organ. Most organs are placed in churches. They are linked with religious services, or they have been linked with religious services. And the organ literature is huge, but most listeners, even music lovers, only know a tiny part of it. And let's recognize that the image of the organ is far from what we would like it to be. We would like to have a more inclusive, a more contemporary, more dynamic image. And I think this is why a place like this is so important, because it's an opportunity, it gives us an opportunity to revisit organ and its literature and organs, as Hans said. If there are a lot of things changing in our time, in the last years, in the last weeks, and we could spend a lot of time about those changes. I would like, the digital transformation of the world is certainly one of the key factors in the transformation. But there is one factor I would like to suggest for our thoughts. What is the place of the audience in the artistic process? I've been educated in a period of time where we as performers try to get the best possible relationship with the composer or with the score. It was a bilateral situation, a relationship. And I think it's more only recently that we got aware that it's not just a bilateral relationship, that the audience should be a part of that, and it becomes then a triangle relationship. I was very impressed 30 years ago by reading a book by Danielle Salnave, a very distinguished writer. She said in French lire un livre, c'est achever de l'écrire. So reading a book is like finishing its writing, or is finishing its writing. If we take that phrase seriously and transpose it to the world of music, for example, or theater, or dance, and if we consider that each of us has his and her own responsibility in bringing something of ourselves to the piece of art that is performed, and that is influenced by how we'll look at it, how we'll listen to it, it completely changes the way we look at the process. And then the question is not only for which audience do we work, but also how do we include the audience in that process. And of course, in a time where the consumerist model has been developing worldwide, to consider the audience, the spectator, not as a consumer, but as an active participant or potentially active participant in the artistic process, in the creative process, changes completely the way we look at it. And I hope that the different speeches, experiences that will be showed and discussed during these 2 days symposium will help us to think in a prospective way, to question what can we do, what are we doing maybe here and there already to put the audience in that creative situation, and to try to be influenced also by things happening in outside of the organ world. So very happy that we have some very important specialists coming from out of the organ to tell us about their experiences. And let's be very honest, there are a lot of things happening today. I recently enjoyed a beautiful dance performance by Platform K, a company based in Ghent that is working with people with disabilities, with professionals and people with disabilities. And the way they include it is so marvelous that after a few minutes you forget about the differences and you just see professionals on stage. There are a lot of things. There have been a lot of things at the Birmingham Opera Company, and very pleased that Anna Griffith is with us today and will speak about the work of this fantastic company, probably the most prospective today in Europe. There have been a lot of things happening here also in the Opera Forward Festival, for example, in Amsterdam, and many more, a little bit everywhere. But I think my invitation is to think that if we want to develop fundamentally the audience, the solution is not in the sky, it's in our hands. It's a way to think probably differently and to find inspiration from each other and build a new future for the organ.